Okay, so you know how on this show we take these deep dives into the source material you send us, and we really try to pull out some, interesting insights.
Yeah.
And today's no different. This time it's a collection of letters, and well, it's Vincent van Gogh.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
And the edition you sent is particularly interesting.
Yeah.
It's a revised Dutch version from 1990. It's prepared by Han van Krimpen and Monique Behrens Albert for the Rijksmuseum Vincent van Gogh, and they include a lot of stuff that was left out before, so we get a.
Yeah, a less discreet, more comprehensive look at who he was.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking about like his father threatening to have him committed,
Right.
and even some of his poetry.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty significant when you think about it.
Yeah.
It really does suggest, a life that's a little more complex than the sort of, tragic but sanitized version we often get.
Yeah.
So what we want to do in this deep dive is go beyond that familiar image,
Yeah.
the solitary tragic figure,
Right.
and really use his own words to explore his inner life,
Yeah.
his beliefs, his artistic development,
Relationships.
the relationships, exactly.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
How he found those, compensations the editors talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So these early letters from 1876, when he's in England, there's this like really strong religious feeling.
Oh, absolutely. Like a real foundational faith,
Yeah.
He mentions his very first sermon.
Oh, wow.
And the text he chooses is really interesting. It's from Psalm 119.19. It says, I am a stranger in the earth, hide not thy commandments from me.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and that whole sense of being a pilgrim on a journey
Yeah.
really defines those early years.
And it's not just like personal faith, though. He's like looking at the working class in London and seeing their spiritual needs, too.
Absolutely.
He even talks about George Eliot's Lantern Yard as
Yeah.
like this vision of the kingdom of God here on earth.
Right, a sort of earthly manifestation of the divine.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, and this revised edition is great because it puts that religious aspect back in.
Yeah.
Previous editions really downplayed it,
Huh, interesting.
which maybe suggests, that initial faith, maybe it changed, or maybe there was some disillusionment later on.
Right, right. Okay, so then we see him kind of moving into this artistic journey,
Yeah.
which is so interesting because he's largely self-taught,
Right.
but he was also like so engaged with the art world, for someone with limited resources.
Yeah, exactly. And, museum visits weren't really an option, so he creates his own Louvre on his walls.
Literally.
Literally, yeah, with photographs of artwork and woodcuts.
He mentions like Millet's woodcuts,
Yeah.
Daubigny's Leroy,
Mhm.
all sorts of stuff.
Exactly. And in this DIY approach, it's not just about access.
Yeah.
It forces him to engage with these reproductions.
Right.
Maybe focusing on composition or emotional impact rather
Yeah.
than the fine details.
Right.
And that's a crucial step in developing his own visual language.
Totally. And then there's this whole thing in Noonan where he can't find people to pose for him.
Right.
And instead of getting discouraged, he just starts looking at birds' nests.
Yeah. I mean, talk about making the best of a situation, right?
Yeah, totally. And then later in Arliss, when he's running low on supplies, he starts using a reed pen.
Oh, yeah. I love that story.
Yeah.
And it's not just, making do a reed pen is going to give you bolder, more textured lines
Oh, right.
than a finer nib.
Yeah.
So maybe that contributes to the energy we see in those Arliss drawings.
Huh. Yeah, that's fascinating.
He was constantly innovating.
Yeah, and he had these really strong connections with other artists, even though he was often isolated.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Delacroix and Millet especially.
Yeah, he even said that when he was in pain, he felt like they were watching over him.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really powerful statement.
Yeah, it
It
is.
speaks to a real sense of, artistic lineage, almost spiritual kinship,
Yeah.
not just admiration.
Right, and the letters are just full of these references to other artists. Like, he compares Daubigny to the French coast near Dieppe.
Right.
He calls Rembrandt the Shakespeare of art.
Wow.
And he connects Ruysdael to Daubigny's etchings.
Yeah, and Millet was a huge influence. He called Sentier's biography of Millet his manual of true art,
You're right.
and he saw his own path as this painter of peasants reflected in Millet's life and work.
So powerful.
It is, and it shows, that early commitment to depicting the dignity of labor and the spiritual significance he found in ordinary lives.
And he even compares his own landscapes to Millet's.
Yes.
And Joseph Israel's and Jules Breton.
All artists who focused on, everyday people.
Right, right. And then there's Marion.
Oh, yeah.
who he said could give even architectural drawings a human soul.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, he links him to Durer's Melancholia and the sentiment in Millet's work.
What's so great is that he's not just, name dropping. He's actively grappling with their work,
Right.
trying to understand their techniques, their motivation.
And even his relationship with Mauve, which starts with guidance and then there's this falling out. It shows him like moving toward artistic independence.
Right.
He even asks Mauve to approve his studio floor plans.
Wow.
There's that tension between seeking mentorship and, finding your own voice.
Absolutely.
And there's Breitner, who he sometimes compares to Vierge.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees Corot in the Dutch landscape, and Dupré was a reference point for his cottage paintings.
Yeah.
And of course, Japanese prints, huge influence on his style and perspective.
Oh, for sure.
It's amazing how much he absorbed and synthesized.
Absolutely. And, it wasn't just visual.
Yeah.
He even experimented with colored woolen threads to test color combinations for the potato eaters.
Really?
Yeah, he compared it to a weaver's patterns. That's not just a whim. That's an understanding of how color juxtaposition works.
Right.
Which he would later master on canvas.
Wow. So now let's talk about his personal life. And these letters really show how crucial Theo was.
Oh, Theo's role is just monumental. He's almost constantly there for Vincent, providing financial support,
Yeah.
emotional support, intellectual companionship.
It's amazing.
It is. And what's really poignant is you see these doubts that Vincent has about Theo's support.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which must have been just heartbreaking for both of them.
Oh, wow. And his relationship with his immediate family seems very difficult.
Yeah, there were major conflicts with his father.
Like, to the point where his father threatened to have him committed.
Yeah, and his romantic pursuits also caused a lot of tension,
Yeah.
especially his pursuit of Kivas.
Oh, right. Kivas, who just said never, no, never.
Exactly, and he just wouldn't give up.
Wow.
He even compares loving her to, it's not like picking strawberries, he said.
Oh, wow.
He talked about it with his uncle JPS.
Really?
Yeah, just wouldn't let it go.
Oh, wow. And all of that really damaged his relationship with his parents.
Yeah, they accused him of, severing family ties.
And his reactions are so strong.
Yeah, you can feel the hurt in the letters,
Yeah.
It shows this real gap in understanding between them.
Right. And it's all happening while he's trying to create art.
Absolutely. These aren't, abstract emotions.
Right.
They're his lived reality shaping his worldview and probably his art too.
Yeah, feeling that intensity. Yeah.
Exactly.
So besides Kivos, there are other relationships that are interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like his connection with Sen.
Yeah.
Wasn't this like passionate love story?
More like a companionship born out of shared hardship.
He says they were two unhappy people who keep each other company and share a burden.
Right. Finding solace in the face of adversity.
And Theo didn't approve of Sen at first.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, another layer of complexity there.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there's the story about the pregnant woman he takes in as a model.
Oh, yeah.
This deserted woman, he pays her rent and shares his food with her.
Yeah.
It's like this deep sense of empathy and social conscience.
It really is. He frames it as a matter of decency,
Yeah.
contrasting it with societal manners and culture, which might have condemned her,
Right.
So there's this real sense of, aligning himself with those on the margins.
And that connects to his broader social views.
Absolutely. He identifies with the lower orders.
And he challenges social conventions.
Yeah. He says he's absolutely free to consort with these so-called lower orders if the opportunity should arise.
Yeah.
Precisely because he lacks, financial independence and social pretensions.
Yeah.
So it all goes back to that deep connection with ordinary people.
With the working class.
Exactly.
The people he depicts in his art.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk more about his artistic philosophy.
Okay.
Because for him, it was way more than just representing what he saw.
Oh, definitely art was deeply intertwined with his spiritual and philosophical beliefs.
He even said you could find God in the works of great artists.
Yeah, and he stressed the importance of reading and deep thought.
He said, just read the Bible and the gospel. That will start you thinking.
Right. Connecting faith, reflection, and creativity.
Yeah, and his views on technique evolved too. Mm-hmm. He said that academic correctness wasn't as important as expressing the pressing needs of contemporary painting.
Right. He felt this urgency to capture the essence of his subjects.
It's especially the working class.
Yeah, he specifically says he wants to paint a worker, something he felt the old masters avoided.
And he gets so frustrated with critics who just focus on technique.
Oh, yeah.
And miss the effort, the deeper meaning behind his work.
Especially with his peasant scenes.
Right.
It's like they don't see the struggle.
Yeah, and he talks about the challenges of painting outdoors.
Oh, yeah.
The flies, the dust, the uncooperative models.
Yeah, all part of the reality he's trying to capture,
Right.
not just inconveniences.
And yet he keeps going.
His determination and work ethic are just incredible.
He talks about reworking canvases multiple
Yeah,
times.
until he gets it right. He was relentless, constantly striving to improve.
And he really valued direct observation of nature.
Oh, absolutely.
He quotes Mauve's advice to focus on the bank of that ditch. Instead of just talking about other painters,
Yeah, immerse yourself in the subject.
really see and feel it.
Not just rely on conventions.
Right.
It's about that visceral connection with reality.
Yeah. And of course, there's the financial side.
Mhm.
His reliance on Theo.
It's a complex dynamic.
He's grateful, but there's also tension and frustration,
Right.
especially with Theo's role as a dealer.
Yeah. Vincent desperately wanted to be self-sufficient.
And you can see that struggle in the letters.
Absolutely. The anxieties, the frustrations,
And then he moves to the south of France.
and everything changes.
Yeah.
Like the colors, it's a whole new world.
He's captivated by the blossoming orchards,
Hmm.
the starry nights with cypresses,
Yeah.
the Japanesery of the docks.
Right. That fascination with Japanese art,
Yeah.
it all feeds into his later style.
And his time in Arles is marked by this desire to create an artist's house.
Oh, yeah.
And his interactions with other artists like Gauguin,
Mhm.
and it doesn't work out.
No, the dream of this artistic community clashes with their personalities.
And his health deteriorates.
Sadly, yes.
Mental exhaustion, the attacks.
Mhm.
But even then, he's reflecting on creativity and suffering.
He even mentions Richepin's views on artists and madness.
It's so powerful.
It is this incredible resilience and drive to create, even in the midst of turmoil.
And he becomes more focused on portraiture.
Yeah, trying to reveal character through color and expression.
The portraits of Dr. Gachet, the Arlesian.
Right, it's not just about likeness anymore.
It's about their inner essence.
Exactly, conveying emotion and personality through color and brushstrokes.
And through it all, there's this enduring artistic drive, this hope that his work will resonate with future generations.
Despite the lack of recognition in his lifetime.
Yeah, he held on to that belief.
He did, and his spirit shines through those final letters.
So, we started this deep dive talking about Vincent van Gogh as this tragically isolated figure, but his letters show us so much more.
Absolutely. They reveal an artist deeply engaged with the world.
With nature, with art, with relationship.
Yeah, we see his beliefs evolve, his artistic passion, his struggles, his connections.
It's really remarkable.
It is.
So I guess the question for you listening is, how does this change your view of Van Gogh? How does it make you think about creativity and struggle and the power of connection, even in the face of isolation?
What resonated with you?
Maybe you'll be inspired to explore his life and art even further.
There's so much wisdom and humanity in his words,
Yeah,
a perspective on life and art that's still relevant today,
absolutely.
still inspiring.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Thanks for joining us.